How can you perfect your microblading? Well, I'm gonna show you one simple trick, and it's all about your frame. The frame are the strokes that create the outline of your brow. So the front, the top line, and the baseline. Without a strong foundation, where your stroke placement is perfectly accurate, the rest of your strokes are going to suffer. And overall, it's going to affect the entire flow of your brow. So it's important that before anything, you perfect your frame. In this video, I'm gonna show you how to perfect your frame by demoing it on paper. This way you can see the right way to do it and the wrong way. If you're new to my channel, my name is Christy and I'm the owner of Boss Brows. I've been in the beauty industry for almost 9 years now, specializing in microblading and microblading training. This video is one featured in my online training course where we go over all the fundamentals of microblading through lectures, videos, live demos, quizzes, and at-home assignments that are graded by a professional microblading artist to help you stay on the right microblading path. I will post the link to the online training in the description below. Okay, so let's take a look at what the frame is. Now, we are doing the rainbow template. I would say that this is the most common hair growth pattern where hair is moving up, over, and then down. So I just want to walk you through the frame step by step. Now, if you've taken one of my microblading training courses, you know that I organize the strokes in rainbow order. So the first red stroke is going to start on the brow mapping line. Then you're going to stagger your next few strokes. See how these strokes are moving up and over? Now the last red stroke, you need it to lay on that brow mapping line, right about here. How many red strokes do you put in? Doesn't really matter. What matters is that the last red stroke is right where the hair transitions. So that last red stroke, you're going to stagger it from the stroke before and land on the brow mapping line. So see how it's actually touching the brow mapping line? That's what you're looking for. If it doesn't curve like that, it's going to be a really bad flow from where the strokes are moving up and then over and down. So we want a really nice flow. So the first orange stroke is going to start hugging that brow mapping line, and it only comes off a little bit. Now, what's important to know about the orange strokes is that they are pointing towards the tail. So with the orange strokes, the best thing to think of is when you start your orange stroke, it's hugging the brow mapping line, and where the orange stroke ends, it's going to be pointing towards the tail. This is going to set you up for your staircases later on, and the staircase is just those strokes that are filling in the rest of the brow. These orange strokes are creating the top line of your eyebrow. So you want these to be perfect. The orange strokes should all be pointing towards the tail. So again, if I were to extend these lines, they would all be pointing towards the tail. That is one of the biggest things. The next thing is the spacing. You want to make sure the spacing from all of these orange strokes are the same. So see right here, the spacing is a little off. In that case, I could have started this orange stroke up here, okay? Now the thing that's gonna help you the most with your yellow strokes is drawing in your spine. The spine is where the hair transitions. So on one side of the spine, you'll have the hair moving up and over, and on the other side of the spine, the hair will be moving over and down. So the spine should be placed right underneath this first orange stroke. When drawing your spine, you want to make sure that you're visualizing the stroke pattern and that all of these staircases being built off of this orange stroke can fit. So right where we drew this spine right here, I know that I can fit all of my staircases for each one of these orange strokes, okay? Now what's helpful about this spine is when I'm drawing in my yellow strokes, I'm going to make sure that all of my yellow strokes are pointing towards this spine. The first yellow stroke should be hugging the placement of those last red strokes. Now do you see here, this yellow stroke is right next to these red strokes. If you were to start it here, you would have all of this empty space. So this is again the hugging placement that I keep talking about. You want to make sure that this first yellow is hugging that placement of those reds. Another thing just to pay attention to is the spacing of these strokes down here. All of the strokes, whether they're red or yellow, should be very similar in distance. So do you see how this first red stroke on the baseline, the second red stroke on the baseline, and the first yellow stroke on the baseline all are about equal distance apart? Is we want to keep the same distance between the start of the yellow stroke and the end of the yellow stroke. With the yellow strokes, they're going to be pointing towards that spine. You see how these strokes look like they're just falling down? It kind of reminds me of dominoes. These strokes should fall down so that the last yellow stroke is on that brow mapping line. The last yellow is going to fall right near that lower arch. Now the reason why the frame is so important to your eyebrow is because if one of these strokes is placed wrong, then you won't be able to fill in all of your staircases. So a lot of times I see this. The first red strokes are really far apart, so they really need to be a lot tighter, but also this last red stroke doesn't land on the line. So watch what happens when I go and do my orange strokes. So right here, that's our transition. It's not a very fluid transition. Also, the orange strokes, they're all pointing down. So if I were to extend these orange strokes, look at where they're pointing. They're pointing down. This is going to be a problem when we go to fill in our staircases. This is another thing I see. The yellow spacing is totally off on all of these. The first yellow, if you see here, there's a lot of open space. So that first yellow is not hugging these red strokes, okay? The other thing I find is instead of the strokes looking like they're falling down towards that lower arch, they just get smaller in size. So see how small these yellow strokes are? So watch what happens when I go to fill in my staircases. First off, do you see how there's going to be a crossing of the spine? Meaning these yellow strokes should be on the left side of the spine, where all of these strokes should be on the right side. We don't want this right here. That's not going to help our eyebrow flow very well. So whenever you're having trouble with your stroke placement, go back to the beginning and practice your frame. If you're struggling with this and need some further assistance, I do have an online training course where it goes over step by step all the fundamentals of microblading, and I can review your practice and give you some edits. So I will post the link in the description below.